everyone, I'm Marloes and I've been living in the UK for nearly 9 years now. So a few things are completely different here than they are in the Netherlands. And today I'm going to talk about the main difference when you are buying a house. So first of all, buying a house in the UK is a really long process. So in the Netherlands this is significantly shorter. For buying a house you'd almost take some holidays in order first of all to find the right house. So can you imagine in the UK what could happen is you could find the right house, you bring in an offer, it's accepted, but then something goes wrong. So in the Netherlands this is very different because you sign off a contract and after a certain amount of time that contract is valid. There's no backing out anymore. So in the UK this could not be any more different. So you really have to wait until the final day where you get the keys and everything is signed and ready to go. So things can go wrong, for instance, if you are in a chain. So let's say you're buying a house, but you have to sell your own house. And then potentially you would also have the people who you're buying it from, they have to buy a new house. There's many different steps where this goes wrong. And this is again very different in the Netherlands where you're dealing with one solicitor. Whereas here, let's say the person who wants to buy the house and who you're buying it from, they all have different solicitors. So they all have to talk to each other. But you never actually or rarely get to talk to the vendor directly. So it all goes via the solicitors, which is why it's a very long, drawn-out process. And other things could also be that either party just decides that they don't want to go ahead with it anymore. So sometimes it could be that people have So it could be, for instance, that people have brought in offers on multiple houses and they go with the one they like the most. Or it could just be simply that whoever is going to sell the house just has decided that it's not the right time or they're not interested in selling it anymore. So then in the Netherlands, you obviously buy the house, you own the land on it. So it's very different in the UK where you have this leasehold versus freehold system. And actually most of the houses tend to be leasehold, which means that you actually don't own the land of the house. So that can be very confusing, and in the beginning I didn't know what that meant either. But it goes back to medieval times, I guess, where the land belonged to someone else and you're just simply leasing it for someone, and it can be for quite an extended period of time. In reality, it doesn't really happen that someone comes to take the land back, but you have to deal with extra insurances and that kind of further complicates matters. Another thing, which is why on average it takes a lot longer in the UK, let's say you have the easy situation in the UK where you're not in a chain, there's no chain involved, there's no other issues with buying the house, it would still take you at least 3 months to exchange contract. And that's really the shortest as possible because it's more likely to be 6 months or longer. That's because in the Netherlands people don't always do a survey, for instance. So they said you just have to sign the contract and then it can be quite straightforward. You agree on a date you're going to move in and that's it. Whereas in the UK most people tend to do a building survey for sure. Then you can do an electrical survey and there's lots of other things that you have to check. For instance, in terms of the environmental, there are certain controls they've got to do. And this all goes via solicitors and all these checks will take several weeks. And it obviously could be that something comes up in one of these surveys and then you have to go back and negotiate on certain terms or potentially on the price of the house that you're buying. So the house market is difficult enough, especially for first-time buyers. And as I said, in the UK, according to me, the system is even more complicated. But what can be really difficult is that it could be that you have your offer accepted and then for whatever reason you have to go back to square one. So these are just some observations for myself as an expat, what the differences are between buying a house in the UK and in the Netherlands. If you want to know more about some differences in culture or some strange Dutch habits, then do have a look at our playlist Dutchie in the UK. Thanks for watching.